Welcome to the Daily AI News Digest. I'm your host, and it's Monday, June 29th, 2026. Before we dive in, a quick thank you to bestai.org for sponsoring this explainer. Today, we're cutting through the noise and looking at the structural shifts that are actively repricing the entire artificial intelligence sector. We're skipping the marketing hype to bring you the raw market realities defining the industry right now. Let's get to it. So here are the top headlines crossing the terminal today. First, Broadcom and OpenAI's major strategic pivot with their custom Jalapeno inference chip. Then we'll look at the severe tech equity sell-off that's hitting the markets. And finally, the realities of the new government-gated AI era. Let's break it down. Moving right into the biggest moves today, hardware is surging while equities pull back. It's really a tale of two markets this week. Over in Asia, memory chip makers like SK Hynix and Samsung are posting triple-digit gains, fueled by an absolutely insatiable global demand for high-bandwidth memory. But here in the US, software equities are facing a massive pullback. Investors are stepping in and demanding clear proof of ROI. They want to see the returns on these massive capital expenditures. And perhaps the most visible casualty of this tech equity sell-off is SpaceX. Their valuation has officially dropped to $1.95 trillion. This actually marks the very first time their market cap has dipped below that $2 trillion threshold since their high-profile NASDAQ debut. To put that contraction into perspective for you, that is a $600 billion market cap loss in just 3 trading sessions. And with the broader NASDAQ 100 shedding over $1 trillion in market value overall, it's clear the market is heavily scrutinizing the premium valuations we saw assigned during that initial AI acceleration phase. But while software valuations are feeling the heat, the physical infrastructure side just keeps expanding. OpenAI has formally taken the wraps off Jalapeno. This is a custom ASIC, co-developed with Broadcom, and it's designed strictly for AI inference, meaning serving the responses to users, not training the models. What's incredible here is the timeline. They went from design to tape out in a reported 9 months. By co-locating high-bandwidth memory modules, Jalapeno is purpose-built specifically for the memory demands of modern transformers. Now, the business logic behind building custom silicon? It's purely economic. OpenAI is projecting a massive 50% reduction in inference costs compared to running these models on general-purpose GPUs. We know OpenAI has staggering operational costs tied to global-scale inference, so this push into vertical integration is really a required step to stabilize their unit economics at scale. All right, let's pivot to product and model realities, specifically looking at the new GPT-5.6 tiers and the Gemini delays. The landscape of frontier models is shifting. We're seeing a distinct move away from the singular flagship release. Instead, companies are segmenting their models into capability tiers tailored for very specific enterprise use cases. Take OpenAI's new GPT-5.6 family, for example. They've abandoned the single model approach and rolled out 3 distinct tiers. You've got Sol, the flagship, sitting at $5 per million input tokens and $30 for output, aimed squarely at complex agentic tasks. Then there's Terra, the balanced middle ground at half that cost, meant to match GPT 5.5 performance for daily enterprise workflows. And finally, Luna, the high-volume automation tier, aggressively priced at just $1 for input and $6 for output. This tiered pricing matrix is putting serious pressure on competitors across every segment of the enterprise market. And the performance numbers for that flagship Sol tier are definitely commanding attention on the street. The GPT 5.6 Sol Ultra configuration just hit a record 91.9% on the industry-standard Terminal Bench 2.1 evaluation. They achieve this by deploying multiple subagents in parallel, which really accelerates complex multi-step tasks in a way that a single reasoning pass just can't match. Over at Google, however, the delivery schedule is facing some friction. Gemini 3.5 Pro has officially missed its June general availability target. You might remember this was a major commitment made by Google leadership back at I/O on May 19th. The industry has been waiting on this model, especially for its 2 million token context window and deep think reasoning mode. Now expectations have shifted to July. And realistically, this delay is narrowing Google's competitive window, right as rival models are setting new benchmarks. Compounding that delayed rollout is a notable shift in technical personnel. In just a 6-day window late this month, 4 senior Gemini researchers left Google to join rival firm Anthropic. Looking at this purely as a data point, seeing this concentration of senior talent migrate to a direct competitor exactly when a major product deadline is missed, well, It presents a pretty complex operational picture for Alphabet's AI division right now. Now let's look at regulation and policy, the era of government-gated AI. Corporate strategy aside, the release schedules for all these frontier models are now being actively constrained by federal policy. We're officially operating in a new regulatory landscape. Back on June 2nd, President Trump signed Executive Order 14409. What this does is direct multiple federal agencies to build a classified benchmarking process to evaluate the cyber capabilities of advanced AI models. It also sets up a voluntary framework asking developers to engage with the government before broadly releasing any system designated as a covered frontier model. Now, while the administration explicitly disclaimed this as being a mandatory licensing regime, the practical effect on the market has been immediate. And implementation is moving fast. Agencies were given a strict 60-day deadline from that June 2nd signing, landing on August 1st, to finalize these classified benchmarking designs. Because of this compressed timeline, developers of these massive systems are basically navigating ad hoc reviews with Washington right now, without a fully formalized permanent framework in place. The net result here? Broad public access to this new generation of AI is totally restricted. At the formal request of the administration, OpenAI's GPT-5.6 preview is currently limited to about 20 vetted partner organizations. It's a similar story for Anthropic. Their Claude Mythos 5 remains restricted exclusively to a specific Annex A list of critical infrastructure defenders. Bottom line, neither of these models is available to the general enterprise market today. So, what is the analyst's take on all of this? It really comes down to hardware profits versus software audits. To synthesize everything we've covered, we have to look at enterprise strategy moving forward. The market is drawing a very rigid distinction right now between the suppliers of physical compute and the developers of software intelligence. The business reality is stark. Hardware remains highly lucrative. Asian memory manufacturers are surging, and the push for custom, cost-saving ASICs like Jalapeno just validates the immense capital required to sustain this industry. But on the software side, we're seeing a severe reality check. That heavy sell-off in the NASDAQ 100 tells us enterprise buyers are pausing their broad AI software rollouts in favor of strict ROI audits. Throw in this new sovereign gating, and the most advanced software capabilities can't even reach the open market to generate revenue. I think a recent industry digest summed it up perfectly, noting that the intelligence ecosystem of June 2026 has reached a state of high maturation where the novelty of generative speech has been replaced by the rigor of agentic execution. And that's exactly right. The focus is no longer on conversational parlor tricks. Today, it's all about industrial reliability, measurable cost reduction, and strict regulatory compliance. Which leaves us looking at a critical variable for the month ahead. Assuming these government-gated preview periods wrap up, how is the market going to react when these Frontier 2 models, GPT 5.6 and Gemini 3.5 Pro, finally face broad enterprise ROI audits in July? The answer to that question will likely dictate the valuation trajectory of the entire software sector for the remainder of the year. That wraps up today's analysis of the artificial intelligence sector. A quick reminder that this explainer was sponsored by bestai.org. If you want to dive into the full objective AI model leaderboard and the comprehensive market data we looked at today, definitely go check out their platform. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and as always, continue to approach the market with a measured analytical perspective. We'll see you next time.